All right, a disclaimer. None of this is a comparison. None of this is saying this gun is better than that gun. All the guns you're about to see, I carry, have carried, will carry again, depending on the situation, depending on the day. I do have some comparisons coming. Today is not one of those. This is just me musing out loud about what I carry, when I carry it, and why. What's up, YouTube? Lock and load ninjas, internet at large. I already know the answer to this. There is no perfect carry gun, but I get asked questions about some of the guns that I shoot and some of the guns I film, and so I just thought I would take a moment and answer some of these if I can. I don't have any one gun that I carry on a regular basis. But I do have I have three types of guns that I do carry. I do carry both hammer-fired and striker-fired. The hammer-fired ones, I don't currently have a single-action, double-action pistol in my collection, although that may change at some point. I do definitely love the CZP-07, for example. That is a great gun. But let's talk about the three types of guns that I own and which ones that I think I carry the most. Let's start with the small guns. Okay, the small guns, you've got, from your very, very small, which I don't own any of those. I don't own any of those really small 380s just because 9mm is where I start. Let's start with the Glock 43. Now, this one has been modded up to a degree. Hyve Technology slide, trigger, and I think that's about it with this gun. With the Hyve Technologies modification, taking the +3 and putting it on the magazine, this becomes a 9-round gun. But you also lose a little bit of concealability there, but I have no problem concealing this. This is the STI Staccato C. Probably the most accurate small gun I have ever fired. It has the same geometry on the top as the STI Staccato P, so it will fit in the same kind of holster as an STI Staccato P. 8-shot with a really nice single action trigger. Both of these would be considered, what I would consider both of these to be sort of deep cover concealed pistols, simply because they're single stack, they're really small, front to back, and they don't have large protruding magazines even with the +3 on the Glock 43. Then I confuse myself with this. The Glock 26. Now, the Glock 26 is in a class of guns like the only one that comes close to it that I know of right now is the CZ P10S, which out of the box, the CZ P10S is a superior gun to this. But for this size, and once again, I've got a bunch of Hyve Technologies parts on this, the front to back makes it really concealable. I'm not a big fan of the really stubby magazines, the 10-round magazines, because I'm missing something to grip on. So once again, I go to Hyve Technologies and get a +2, and then it becomes a 12-round gun, still easily concealable. But because of its thickness, this is where it becomes this is where my problem lays. This is a very concealable gun. It's a very accurate gun. I think Massad Ayoob did a test between the Glock 26 and the Glock 34, and he didn't find a whole bunch of discernible differences in the accuracy of the gun. My criteria for those three really just boils down to how I'm dressed on a certain day, where I'm going, what I'm going to be doing, and obviously with a smaller gun, I try to carry all the spare ammo I can, simply because with the single stacks, you know, you're talking 8, 9 shots at best. So, but then you get into this thing, and this is what makes the single stacks for me viable. Massad Ayoob has gotten out there and said, and James Yeager too, when we took the tactical response class. They call it the rule of threes, I think, and this is where they're thinking that most of these defensive gunfights happen at 3 feet, occur in 3 seconds, and there's an average expended 3 rounds of ammunition. So a single stack with a 9-shot capacity, like the Hyve enhanced Glock 43, would be just fine. Or like the SDI Staccato C, it would be just fine, because I would not have to reload after the gunfight in that particular situation. In the average that of all things that have been studied by experts that are much smarter than me. But then there's the sweet spot, which I think the medium-sized guns, or maybe that you would call them the compact guns, I think that's sort of the sweet spot. What do you think? Then we come to the mid-sized guns, and this is where I kind of think the sweet spot is as far as concealability and being a combat pistol. Right off the bat, here's the CZ P10C with the new improved mag release on it. So now mags release a lot easier. It doesn't need the break-in. This comes in a 15-round magazine. It's the only of the CZP series that doesn't actually have more rounds in it than their Glock counterparts. And as far as a gun out of the box, striker fired, I have a very hard time beating SCZ. The P10C is an excellent pistol. Then you get into the custom realm, and you know, we're talking capacity versus size. And here we have the Ace Firearms Mac CP9, which is nicely done up as my 5 rings gun. For all of its look and everything else, this is a very good shooting pistol. And here's where the problem comes with me with the Glock 26. Yes, it's a little bit shorter, but it's about as thick, and when you're talking about carrying a concealed carry handgun, sometimes thickness does matter. So I still think this size is the sweet spot. Then in the very highly custom range, you have, of course, the SDI Staccato P, which falls right. It's same size gun as the CZ-P10C. You get the commander length with a 20-round magazine if you get the 140 millimeter magazines, coupled with a very nice single action trigger and some refinements that have been years in the making coming in from STI. So in the mid-size pistols, that's where I think you're going to find the most versatility. The thing I like about the medium guns is that the medium guns have capacity. A lot of people have looked at the Glock 19 size with 15 rounds in the magazine, 1 in the chamber, or just 15 rounds in the magazine, period, and said that is the best size because it is small enough to hide and big enough to fight with. I think James Yeager termed that phrase. And you can just see the different variations in size that come along. One gun that's not in there that would belong in there, that would be a beautiful gun to be in there, would be the CZ-P07, like I mentioned earlier. So that's a good fighting size. I like it. But there is one other size to consider, and that's the full-size gun. And then we come to the full-size guns. And full-size, there's a lot more variations, I think, because most people think of a full-size gun as a service pistol, even though lots of places issue Glock 19s, which this is not one of, but a lot of places are adopting guns like the Staccato P. Full-size pistols, you can go, old school or new school. With old school, you can go with something like this. This is the NightHawk Custom Thunder Ranch in 45. I'm very impressed with this pistol. I'm thinking this may be the one out of the 3 that got sent to me that I try to strike a deal with Mark Stone in about 2 weeks when I go to NightHawk Custom. New school, I've seen a lot of people, this is the CZP-10F. And I've seen a lot of people say that this is the most shootable, easily, just the best operating striker-fired pistol out there, even more so than the P10C. This is when I took both of these guns to the Sentinel Concepts Red Dot Sight class. They both performed beautifully. This one, it is the best. It is the best striker-fired pistol I've ever shot. Now, plus there's some things that have sort of muddied up the scene. You know, STI's got new guns coming out. Ace has got new guns coming out. NightHawk's got new guns coming out. CZ, they've always got something in the hopper. And so the correct answer would be there is no right, perfect gun. So even with the, you know, even with an old school 8-shot 1911, I still think that is a very viable self-defense weapon. People like Clint Smith, and I've never met him. I would love to meet him. I'd love to talk to him, and I'm going to try to get him on the show to talk about this. But he looks at this and he thinks that part of your training skill set should be working on hitting your target all the time. That was something that was passed on to me by Steve Fisher when we took the Sentinel Concepts class, and in conversations I've had with Dave Harrington, that's also something that keeps coming up. So the 8-shot 1911 is still a viable self-defense gun today. The builders that are out there building these things, I mean, you can get them from at any price point you want to go with. I did a show with Joe Chambers on there that talked about sub $1,000 1911s that he thought were pretty good guns, and I mean, they just function. It's a, you know, it's an over 100-year design that perseveres even to this day. And then you go with something like the P10F, which is just utterly space age. CZ just knocked that one out of the park. But it comes down to this. All of these guns that I just showed you, which what I think that was like eight handguns, I shoot all of them. I shoot all of them. Dave Harrington and Stephen Williams have talked me into trying 2 different types of guns that I've never tried before. Stephen Williams, who is he works for FN. At Fisher's class, he was shooting an FN 509, and yeah, this one had been tooled up a little bit, but I was very impressed with the gun, and I'm going to try this. And I got the first generation model FN 509, which is their full-size gun, but it is a, you know, it's like a Glock 19 size slide with a full-sized grip, so it's a 17 rounder. And this is where we're talking about the hybrid type of gun, where we're mixing and matching things. Dave Harrington has got me very intrigued about the Glock Model 45, which is the 9mm, same sort of configuration. So I'm going to be looking into those too, because I personally think those kind of guns are actually sort of versatile, because you get more and more capacity. Because there's a couple of things I'm concerned about happening later on down the road as time goes on. We've got an election coming up. There's a lot of people forecasting some sort of violence should that election go the way I think it's going to go. So, you know, capacity is going to become an important thing. But what do you think? What do you carry? Comment down below. Tell me what you think. I'm open to all opinions, because I got all the, I mean, if you tell me this is a good one or that's a good one, I've got one of them laying there, so I have no problems with that. If you like this kind of content, and I hope you do, give me a thumbs up. Maybe think about subscribing to the channel. I'll talk to you soon.